Hello everybody, how's it going? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about My Dress Up Darling episode 2. Let's hurry up and do it, I believe is the title episode. This is my first time talking about Dress Up Darling, so I wanted to bring the person that I'm watching Dress Up Darling with along with me, and that's Stella Luna. That's you, yeah.
That's me.
That's you. By the way, I'm gonna need to see 150 likes on this video before the end of the day. And Stella will give a high five to the top comment. I will pin the top comment to the top of the comment section. That's the truth, right, Stella? High five?
I didn't agree to that.
That's okay. It's happening anyway. I'll give you a high five instead. A high five from me instead, since Stella's too good for a high
Look,
five.
I don't know. I don't. You know, after what we just saw, I don't know where their hands have been.
That's fair. Let's talk about it. Okay, so
let's
talk about it. So I was not going to cover this show originally. I was going to cover a isekai, but a lot of people told me, "Nah, man, you should really talk about Dress Up Darling on this day." Because I was like, should I talk about this or a different show on what is it, Friday? Or is today Friday or Saturday?
Saturday.
People were like, you should talk about maybe a different show on Saturdays. So I was like, which one? Everyone's like, Dress Up Darling. And then Stella was like, dude, Dress Up Darling, super good. So we watched it, and the first episode was really good. And do you know, if you're watching at home, can you guess why Stella enjoyed the show so much?
Fan service.
No. Well, I mean, it's fan service, but of a different kind. Not so much the fan service the show is given.
I guess.
It's because Marin is a lot like you.
Yeah, you know, got the, she's a gyaru just like me, and also a cosplayer.
Yeah.
Wow.
Whoa.
Yeah. Whoa, and she's got the two-tone hair. Whoa.
That's true,
Crazy.
actually. Yeah. Damn. Well, there is there is a lot of similarities between the two of you. I'm nothing like JoJo, to be fair. I was like, actually, you know what? Maybe a little bit, actually. Now that I think about it.
I don't know.
Oh, yeah, he a wholesome boy. He a wholesome boy.
Oh, he's so wholesome.
I
love him. He's so wholesome.
He's the sweetest. I will say we're talking a little bit more about first episode stuff here than the second. We will get to the second episode. It's just the second episode is like one thing, so there's not a whole lot to talk about. So we're kind of smushing episodes 1 and 2 together here. But in the first episode, when we watched it, I think I did tell you that I was just immediately, I'm like, I ship this. I like those two. I think their dynamic is really good. I think the two of them are super, super good on screen together.
It's really wholesome and very cute, the two of them.
Mm-hmm.
You have Gojo, who is very sweet, sensitive, soft boy, and you have Marin, who's very outgoing, very forward, right? And they're kind of opposites to each other.
Yeah, it's very sweet. I like a sort of opposites attract type story.
But she's also not an asshole to him.
No, she's becoming the modern anime take on Gyaru, which I really appreciate. That a lot of gals in modern anime, I don't know if you would super agree or if you agree with this or not, but the take is lately that gals are really sweet characters. They're usually seen as being sort of more understanding of nerdy characters or outsider characters because they themselves are usually outsiders.
No, I would agree with that. I feel like a lot of the negative connotations for gyarus and gals back in the day they were very strong-headed, but basically painted as assholes who were also bullies, which is not necessarily true at all. Because like you said, they're outsiders, right? And they do have a more harsh sense of they have a more harsh personality, but that doesn't make them assholes. They're just very forward.
Yeah, exactly. I think the more modern take on Gyaru makes a lot more sense to me for who they usually are. We do have a funny story of a friend of ours mistaking what a gal means with maybe a more old school take on that. But for context, a friend thought Gyaru meant was a synonym for a not very nice word that begins in S and ends with a T, which was very funny.
It's like the word slit, but not.
Not quite. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was very funny
not
moment.
Quite. Yeah, and thought I was also apparently, because I'm also a gal. Like I'm a
That's not
self-proclaimed
what he thought. He might see this. That's not what he. But anyway, yeah, that's
No, I know.
the general takeaway from the first episode was like this is going to be a very sweet show, and typically, Stella's not a big seinen fan. Like that's not really your genre.
No.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
So you were kind of surprised by the first episode.
Oh no, I was. I gave it a chance mostly because I was super interested in the plot of about it was about cosplay.
Yeah.
I didn't even know the main girl was a gal until I watched the episode and I was like, she's a gal, she's a Gyadu.
Yeah.
Cool, and
So cool.
I appreciate like kind of seeing like the cosplay and like the gal like things I'm interested in. It was just this seinen thing was like, it could go in a place I don't want it to go, though.
Yes,
but,
and for the most part, it didn't.
Yeah.
Until this episode. Now, to be fair, okay, let's get into episode 2 now. We'll talk a bit more about episode 2 stuff. But to be fair, I don't think it goes like head first, like full out fan service, like opie flopping everywhere type situation, like. Like, whoa, Gojo fell over and his face landed in her opie. Ha ha ha. Like, they don't go that far with it,
No.
Which I appreciate. But there is definitely stuff that's like, oh, I wish we didn't need to go there.
The feet.
the feet scene. Like, I thought for the most part, a lot of it. The feet was the feet bit was, I was like, nah, I don't like that. But, like, for the most part, it was like, I thought it was. A lot of it was like funnier to me than like oh, I can't believe that we're doing this, because again, like the thing is like Marin is the one in control in that whole situation, so it never felt like control was taken from her. There's like one moment that quote unquote control is taken from Marin in a fan servicey moment, but neither I nor Gojo were even aware of what the hell happened. Like
it took me to point it out.
It did. If you want proof that maybe Gojo and I are a bit more similar than I realize, it was the inseam moment. Which I didn't even know what an inseam was. So
yeah. Inseam is the measurement of like the inside of your leg, to see how like long your leg is. You use it like to measure for pants and stuff like that, or like the length of skirts.
I see.
You want to know what your inseam is.
Makes sense. That makes sense. Well, and that's the thing, right? Like one of the reasons why I was like, maybe I shouldn't talk about this show solo, is because like there's so much that I don't know, right? Like I've cosplayed in the past, but I never was the one making the outfits, right? Like I had friends make the outfits, and I was just sort of there for it, and had no concept of like what was happening, right? So for that part, like I don't know much about, so that's why I was like, I gotta pull in Stella. I need backup here,
moment,
and this is part of it, like the inseam bit.
The moment he was looking through the book and he realized what he was reading, and we both kind of went, what did he just see or read, right? And there was a part of me is like, this has to do with the bust, doesn't it? It has to do with the bust. And then it made me realize, I was like, you know what? A lot of times when you take measurements, you do have to be in your underwear. And before she even stripped down or said anything, I was like, she's going to be in her underwear. That's what's going to happen. I was pleasantly surprised she was in a swimsuit. I was like, you know what? That's smart. Right? And I think the interesting thing about the whole thing, right, is that Marin, she really didn't care that she was basically naked right in front of him, and he was literally taking her measurements, as in like touching her, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's very indicative of like how cosplayers are, because I've had moments where I'm like, if this was like the public, I probably would have been hella embarrassed by what had just happened. But like, I've been in cosplays, I've flashed people on accident. I literally stood in the middle of an arena and we were practicing a quick change, and like I had to hike my skirt up so high that like my underwear was showing 100% in the middle of this arena. And it's like, as a cosplayer, you just kind of stop caring about like what's showing, because it's going to show anyway, because it's how cosplay is, right? Yeah. And I think that was something I really appreciated, is like she really didn't care, because I'm like, yeah, you know what? I to be honest, I wouldn't care either, because, as cosplayers, and even just a theater kid, right? Yeah. Like you're used to changing in front of people that you're not like used to changing in front of.
Yeah.
Like so, whether.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay. No, you.
Just, whether it's in front of your friends or maybe someone of like the opposite like gender or sex, that like you just have to do it. You just kind of have to be like, you know what? We're doing this thing. We got to do it. You might as well like just do it and not think about it.
Exactly. Like being, because I was a theater kid growing up. So like being in that environment, like you get used to sort of changing with the guys and you don't question it. Like nobody's like, whoa, this is a wacky situation. Like you just change, right?
You just do it.
And another thing,
don't make it weird.
Yeah, you don't make it weird, right? The big thing that it reminded me of this episode was being an art student, right? For life drawing, you would have to draw like models, right? And it's funny enough, there was a show last season that I loved. It was like one of my anime of the year, and that was Blue Period. And they have a scene that literally does like the thing that you and I were telling Gojo to do, where it's like, don't make it sexual. Stop making it weird. Like you're putting pressure on yourself that is unnecessary, my boy. Right? Because like it's like when you're in a situation where you're doing essentially art, because like making clothes is an art, right? So when you're in that situation where you're creating something, you can't really be like, not that you can't, but like you shouldn't be really like looking at the body as like a sexual object in that moment. You're looking at it from a different angle, right? And in Blue Period, they talk about the fact that like, oh, this girl's really pretty, but you're not focusing on the fact that the girl's really pretty, right? Because they're drawing like a nude model. And the MC is like, well, she's really pretty, but like that's not like I'm not like aroused by this. It's because I'm too in the moment, I'm in the zone, I'm trying to do something, right? Like because I'm not looking at her in that light right now, right? Like maybe if I was at a bar it'd be different, but I'm not at a bar, I'm in class, right? And it's the same thing with Gojo. I think once he like, and he does start, right? Like he starts getting to that point. It takes him a bit and he keeps kind of falling, but like he does get into the zone a few times. Like you see him sort of just measuring and everything's cool and he's not really thinking about it too much until the opie comes up, and then he kind of gets a little nervous. Although to be fair, and there was several times where, again, I know very little about cosplay. I literally was shocked to see that there was a beginner's guide to cosplay. I literally had to ask Stella, like, that's a thing?
There's books. I mean, I'm pretty sure Yaya Han wrote one.
Really?
I think so. And then like Kamui Cosplay as well, who she's pretty big cosplayer. She does a lot of YouTube tutorials. Like there's so many tutorials and like guides and even just books on like how to get into cosplay. Like you could go to Joann's and I'm pretty sure there's a book there. And I'm pretty sure it's Yaya Han's.
That's really cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah. It was interesting watching this show from a cosplayer's perspective as well. Because like not only am I a Gyaru, but I'm also a cosplayer. And watching it from this perspective of like, oh, well, like, if he's so uncomfortable with the bust, he could have like, she could have taken like the end of it, or like once like not the end, but she could have taken like part of it, held it up to where the fullest part of her breast is, and he just pulls it around and measures. He didn't have to do it from the front. He could have done it from the back too. And she could have just held it there, right? Because at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter if it's from the front or the back. You just have to make sure that you're measuring like the tightness. You're not too tight. It's in the right spot. That's all you have to worry about. It doesn't matter if it's like the front or the back. You know, that could have solved that problem. The inseam part was so funny because I knew exactly what had happened. And like, it's happened to me, but I didn't care in the moment, to be honest. Like she did, right? Like it's like someone's measuring the inside and like you're accidentally touched. But like, it's
I
not
was
like...
very confused. I was like, well, because she started like blushing, and I was like, huh? And even Gojo was like, what? And
What?
And you started laughing because you're like, oh, ha ha ha. And I was like, what? Like I was so confused. And then
the reason I didn't find that like whole scene like really like weird or like bad, you know, because like you talked about how like she was in control the whole time except for that scene, right? Is because that is an accident that can happen.
Yeah.
Right? Like that is because like taking the inseam, you have to, it's the whole part of the inside of your leg. So like, yeah, you might accidentally touch between the legs. Like that might happen. Like, you know, but
I thought the way she blushed was cute too. Because you even said like, oh my god, she's so cute. Right?
Yeah,
like,
the way she blushed was so cute. And I think it was interesting because of like the way she was very cocky like the whole time. But in that moment, she like completely melted. And not to mention, she's cosplaying from a game that's R18.
Yes. Like, we should probably talk about the Eroge thing.
Oh yeah.
Because she is cosplaying from that. But what were you going to say in regards to like the fact that that's like an interesting element that she would blush over that?
Because she's like clearly she's like not. She's like okay with sexual things. She plays an eroge.
Yeah.
For heaven's sakes.
Yeah.
Right? And she was literally just talking about sex slaves in the middle, like in the beginning of the episode.
I love that she assumed that Gojo was into that, by the way. Like that's the first note in my notes was like, I can't believe she just assumed my man was into sex slaves. Like I was like, what? Like that was really funny. But and also like we'll talk about that in a sec. But I do you think maybe it's because like she might kind of have like a thing for Gojo, that's why she blushed? Because like you said, normally that's not a thing that would make a cosplayer blush, right? Because they're just sort of like, oh, it's like a mistake.
Well, I guess the other thing is that she's also new to cosplay, right? So she had like her like mindset on it, right? And she's like, this isn't weird, right? Like this is like normal because someone needs to take my measurements. But because like it was in an area that was very like, you know, like probably sensitive, like she just got embarrassed by it.
Yeah.
Right?
Makes
and
sense.
he didn't notice, right? And she probably just like, you know, she probably doesn't have that much experience to begin with anyways. So you know,
she was just putting up a front, you think, like the whole time?
Yeah. I mean, I don't think she was putting up a front necessarily. I think most of it was like this is what I have to do and stuff like that. And I think she just was like chill with it until like that specific moment.
And then she got a little flustered.
Yeah, and then she got a little flustered.
Yeah.
You
but
know?
Speaking of flustered, we should probably talk about the eroge thing, which does fluster Gojo. But
I was surprised that it was an eroge.
Yeah, so I had no idea that's where we were
from.
going. Yeah, I had no idea that's where we were going. Because we, like, that was, I think, the scenes that I was like, uh-oh, was when, like, they started showing the girl, like, Marin talking about, oh, she's so cute and she's so sweet, and, like, she's an ice queen the whole time, but then you get to know her and she finally smiles, and you don't think she could ever make faces like that. But then you see, like, one of the faces she makes, and it's like, oh no.
No.
Now, like, this is not to disparage anyone for liking those faces. I like those faces, right? But like, is a little surprising is all. Because again, like the show is very like wholesome-y, and then every so often you're reminded like, oh, by the way, this is a seinen. Right? Like that's how I feel about it, because it doesn't jar me, and I don't even dislike it In fact, like, I enjoy it. But, like, it does sort of throw me out of it for a second, because I'm just enjoying how wholesome and sweet it is. And then even, like, the scene of them, like, taking, like, the bus size and everything, it is still wholesome because Gojo himself is so innocent about the whole thing and, like, trying not to be, like, a perv, that it makes the whole scene, like, really still sweet, even though it's a sort of fan servicey scene. And they really do give Marin, like, crazy jiggle physics, by the way. But, like,
they do,
and I'm not gonna say anything about it because I don't feel like the auntie's coming for me. But I will say, like, those scenes in particular where it's showing, like, the girl that Marin's gonna cosplay, like, her faces, I was like, for some reason, that felt like a step too far into seinen. Where I was like, I don't know why, but it really, like, took me out. I don't know if you remember, but I, like, laughed because I was sort of, like, uncomfy. I was like, oh no, right? Like, because it was just, like, the one step in a direction that I was like, this should be in World's End Harem, right? Like, and before anyone thinks that's an insult, World's End Harem might be my anime of the season, right? But that's a different show. Like, ecchi stuff belongs in World's End Harem. For some reason, it feels like it doesn't really fit here, right? Like, when it shows up, it feels weird, you know? Not in a bad way, just odd.
It might be because of, like, kind of the exposition of the whole show kind of being more wholesome. And then, like, even with, like, because there's some more sexual themes in it doesn't mean, like, it makes it more adult. Whereas, like, I feel like throwing that face in there really pulls you out of that maturity.
Because I do feel like it is a mature show. Like, the way it handles a lot of the more fan servicey scenes, it's still sweet. Like, Marin jumping on the bed and him being like, get off the bed! And me and you being like, dude, it's fine! Right? Like, it's cool, chill, Gojo. Right? And then, but her doing it, being on the bed anyway and, like, kind of making a joke about it. Right? Or Gramps walking in and seeing him play.
That was so fucking funny.
That was so funny, right? Like, and so it's handled with a level of comedy that's also, like, you could tell the author's like, I'm gonna put in some, like, relatable humor, right? Because, like, I'm not gonna lie, the other day, and you will love this, the other day, I heard a knock at the door while I was in the middle of, like, watching World's End Harem, and they never knock. So I was like, oh, thank God they knocked. But, like, it was one of those, like, oh my God, right? I know that feeling of,
wow.
Like...
I'm really glad the Wendigos knocked.
The Wendigos did knock. They never knock. They usually just jump in and scream at me, and I'm like, oh, okay, I guess I gotta deal with this now. But it was definitely a situation of... It's a situation I feel like a lot of people can relate to, is having, like, somebody you're either living with, like a roommate or something, sort of walk in and see you in a position that's maybe a little compromising, you know?
Yeah.
And it's handled with that's, like, you could tell the author is like, this is something that, like, adults or even, like, older teens can sort of talk about and understand that this is, like something uncomfortable that you can laugh at, where you got caught doing something you maybe weren't supposed to be doing, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's one of those scenes, and that's why, like, that to me feels appropriate, or Marin jumping on the bed, but the faces felt inappropriate for some reason.
Yeah, and like I said, I feel like it's because it's a more immature thing to, like
it feels like
kind of, like, put in there.
Yeah,
right?
It feels
because
more dopey harem stuff, you know?
Yeah, exactly. The one gripe I really have with this, and, like, like, if you don't care about this, like, that's fine. Like, I don't think of you as, like, a weird or a bad person, because most of the time I don't usually care too much. Is, like, I am just slightly uncomfy with them being in high school. Like, I really feel like they could have just said it in college and it would have not changed the story whatsoever.
Yeah, well, the thing for me is, like, and we've talked about this before, we can make a whole video about this.
Yes, we
could.
But,
like, we both have said, like, if anybody were to tell us, like, oh, Marin's, like, my waifu or something, would you really care? Like, because
no,
she does not look like a teenager remotely.
No.
Right?
No.
Like, they, like, her or especially Gojo, like, they don't, like, again, this is very much the anime thing where you could set so many of these shows in college and you wouldn't notice. right?
Yeah.
Like you can make them in their 20s and it wouldn't really change anything.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of the nature of the beast. It's a whole other topic that we could get into. But this is one of those shows that I also wish. I'm like, I wish you just said it in college.
Yeah,
now,
because like it because of the maturity of how they handle some of the fan servicey like scenes in the comedy,
Yeah.
like it would have just pushed it a little farther to make them in high school. Or not high school, in college.
Yeah.
In college.
Yeah.
And not in high school.
Yeah.
Because like there's really not like a need, right? Is that second of all, it's a sign-in, right?
Yeah.
Which means it's for an older audience to begin with. If this was like a shonen, like just a romantic comedy shonen where it's aimed towards boys, I get why it's in high school. But because of the demographic it's written for, I don't really understand why it had to be put in high school.
Yeah, it was very, yeah. It's a setting choice that I don't super agree with. Well, because like part of me is like, well, Gramps, right? Like it should be set in high school because that way Gramps isn't like too old, right? But like Gramps can still be around while he's in college. That doesn't seem like too weird.
I was about to say like what? Like he's in like they could have been freshmen in college. Like they would still be 18.
Yeah,
right.
Like, I can
and that would
imagine
have like
them,
set like what, a year or two older than they are now.
Yeah, it would have been fine. Like even if they were like
would've been
second
fine.
years, like that would have been
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really see a reason as to why. Now, like, we know, like, you know, in Japan, high school is a much bigger deal. So, like, a lot of stories are set in high school for specific reasons. Again, if you guys want us to make a video, we can absolutely make a video talking about that, because that's, like, a whole other can of worms. Like, there is a reason why a lot of anime is set in high school, right? But, yeah, this is one that I wish was set in college. But overall, like, it's really fun. And I do plan on talking about it weekly. Because I enjoy this show. I really enjoy the show. You could join if you want. You don't have to, but as a thing.
Yeah, I'll join. Hopefully I'll wake up in time.
That's true. Yeah, we different. Yeah. Stella be like sleeping most of the time.
I sleep a lot.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
You do. You're on the pull-out. What are they? The pull-out mattress. What do they call it?
Pull-out couch?
Pull-out couch? Is that what they call it? I don't know.
Pull-out bed?
Yeah, what are they? Yeah, because when she comes in, she's like, "Oh, you didn't put your mattress away."
Pull-out game? Like what?
What? Ending the video. Ending the video. And there you have it, everybody. That is going to wrap it up for today's video. So I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, don't forget to boop that up snoot, share if you care, leave a comment down below, and of course, make sure that you hit that subscribe button, ring the bell, and set notifications to all. Let all of AnyTube know that you are here. And if you haven't done so already, go ahead and check out our Discord so that you can actually be notified when new videos go up. And of course, you'll also be notified when we're streaming over on the other website that starts with a T. On top of being the best way to get notified for new videos, it's also a good place to discuss with fellow anime fans and stuff like that. So if that sounds cool to you, go ahead and join us over on the Discord, link down in the description. Also linked to the description is our Patreon page, and that, along with the join button right beside the sub button, are great ways to help keep this channel afloat. You will find our Patreon page for as little as $1. You can help keep this channel running. And of course, a big thank you I have to give to our masters of masters, the true legends, Asaki VT, Elizabeth Just Elizabeth, JCran23, Jeremy P, Matt87 Eagle, Shadow Creative, Shiorans, Stephen G, Stevie W, Trapmaster, Trevor W, and Tristan G. Thank you all so much for being so freaking cool. I really love and appreciate all of you guys for your tremendous support of this channel. And if you too would like to have your name shouted out at the end of videos, once again, go check out that Patreon link in the description or hit the join button right beside the sub button. Either way helps out a ton. And that's it for me. So until next time, clean your room. Just trust me, a clean room is a clean mind. Maybe do some Tai Chi. Maybe drink lots of water and brush your teeth. And yeah, have a good day. Bye.